Greetings to all our listeners. My name is Kevin Fortune, and I will be reading the story entitled The Dead Man's Plum Bush, an extract written by Zitkala Shah, noted Native American writer and activist. Let's begin. One autumn afternoon, many people came streaming toward the dwelling of our near neighbor. With painted faces and wearing broad white chests of elk's teeth, they hurried down the narrow footpath to Haraka Wamdi's wigwam. Young mothers held their children by the hand and half carried them along in their haste. They overtook and passed by the bent old grandmothers who were trudging along with crooked canes towards the center of excitement. Most of the young braves galloped hither on their ponies. Toothless warriors, like the old woman, came more slowly, though mounted on lively ponies. They sat proudly upright on their horses. They wore their eagle plumes and waved their various trophies of former wars. In front of the wigwam, a great fire was built, and several large black kettles of venison were suspended over it. The crowd was seated about on the grass in a great circle. Behind them, some of the braves stood leaning against the necks of their ponies, their tall figures draped in loose robes, which were well drawn over their eyes. Young girls, with their faces glowing like bright red autumn leaves, their glossy braids falling over each other, sat coquettishly beside their chaperons. It was a custom for young Indian women to invite some older relative to escort them to the public feasts. Though it was not an iron law, it was generally observed. Haraka Wambadi was a strong young brave who had just returned from his first battle, a warrior. His near relatives, to celebrate his new rank, were spreading a feast to which the whole of the Indian village was invited. Holding my pretty striped blanket in readiness to throw over my shoulders, I grew more and more restless as I watched the excited throng assembling. My mother was busily broiling a wild duck that my aunt had that morning brought over. Mother, why do you stop to cook a small meal when we are invited to a feast? I asked with a frown in my voice. My child, learn to wait. On our way to the celebration, we are going to stop at Chanyu's wigwam. His aged mother-in-law is lying very ill, and I think she will like a taste of this small game. Having once seen the suffering on the thin, pinched features of this dying woman, I felt a momentary shame that I had not remembered her before. On our way, I ran ahead of my mother and was reaching out my hand to pick some purple plums that grew on a small bush when I was checked by a low shh from my mother. Why, mother, I want to taste the plums, I exclaimed as I dropped my hand to my side in disappointment. Never pluck a single plum from this brush, my child, for its roots are wrapped around an Indian skeleton. A brave is buried here. While he lived, he was so fond of playing the game of striped plum seeds that, at his death, his set of plum seeds were buried in his hands. From them sprang up this little bush. Eyeing the forbidden fruit, I trod lightly on the sacred ground and dared to speak only in whispers until we had gone many paces from it. After that time, I halted in my ramblings whenever I came in sight of the plum bush. I grew sober with awe and was alert to hear a long, drawn-out whistle rise from the roots of it. Though I had never heard with my own ears the strange whistle of departed spirits, yet I listened so frequently to hear the old folks describe it that I knew I should recognize it at once. The lasting impression of that day, as I recall it now, is what my mother told me about the dead man's plum bush. Thank you for listening. I hope you all enjoyed. Do enjoy the rest of the show.